Hi, welcome to another podcast series. On this episode, we converted our LinkedIn Live session to a podcast for your learning pleasure. In this episode, we discussed the future of work in the era of generative AI. Enjoy!
I'd like to introduce people who I have on the call here with me that will be taking on this session. I have the head of enterprise applications here at Signal Alliance Consulting. He is none other than Chair Dozie Ejenono. And I also have a cloud engineer in the person of Benjamin Busari. Please, can we give them a virtual round of applause so that I'm sure that you all are with me on the call? Yeah. Thank you, Kofu. I see you. Olawale, I see you. Ikenna, I see you. Thank you very much. So let's get right into it without further much ado. Before I anchor sessions or host any events, I like to always do my research. And as part of my research, the reason I did this research was because I wanted to reach out to the target audience who I believe would also be on this call. Um, as part of my research, I asked some of my non-techie friends what generative AI is to them. And one of the most hilarious responses I got, someone said generative AI is the senior brother to search. And I was wondering, search, how so? So generative AI has quickly become the generation defining technology, shaping how we search and consume information every day. Mr. Chedozie, I'd like to ask you, for the sake of people on the call here, and for the sake of someone who said generative AI is Search Pro Max, what is generative AI?
All right, Suju, thank you so much. Well, I want to give a shout out to everyone on the call. I can see so many of my friends on the call already. I know it promises to be a very exciting time discussing around the balls out there, which is generative AI. All right, so let's put it into context. Try as much as possible to bring it down to the lowest level, so that we can be able to capture a few things that will enable us to have a build up in the next sections. Okay, so generative AI. So when you come to the field of artificial intelligence, there are few types. There are few different types of artificial intelligence, which generative AI is also a part of it. So generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence, but in this case, it focuses on creating new data or content that is similar. I want to use the word that is similar but not identical to existing data. So the scope of generative AI is largely about creating new data, creating new content that are similar, content that are not identical, 100% identical to an existing data already. So it operates by learning patterns and structures from existing data and then using that knowledge to generate new original content, right? So there is a learning process of an existing data. So once it has learned what existing data is, the largely what is resides. So it builds on it to generate a new content, and that content becomes original. So it is not 100% identical with what you have before, but it's so much similar to what you have, but presenting it in a way that is more meaningful, in a way that is more digestible for you. So generative AI models are capable of producing text, they are capable of producing images, they're capable of producing music and other type of contents. I Let me stop here. I think I've put a word to it. Thank you so much, Ju.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chedozie. You actually gave perspective into all of this. You spoke about existing data, and I just feel like asking about data protection and intellectual property. But you are going to take it bit by bit. Like you rightly said, this is the intermediary stage before we move up to the technical point of it. So, Benjamin, what will you say generative AI is to you?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First, thank you for the opportunity to be here to share insights. Good afternoon, everyone, once again. So, if I should talk about what is generative AI, so just like Mr. Chegozie rightly said, so it is just simply in a nutshell a type of artificial intelligence that creates content. So now it's not just creating content. You might ask what kind of content exactly is generative AI creating. So it is creating content around text, code, images. Now, how exactly does it create this content? So generative AI just simply focuses on generating new data that are similar to existing data that you have. And when I say existing data that you have, I'm talking about millions of data that we have online already. So it's via this learning patterns from this existing data, it is able to use this knowledge to generate new and unique outputs. So once again, just as Mr. Chedoze rightly said, it is similar data, but not exactly, not identical data, but then it is similar data. So unlike other types of AI that does classification, prediction, and then recognizing patterns in data, in summary, or should I say in a nutshell, generative AI just basically creates data.
Okay, great, amazing response. Since we are going to be speaking to the future of work in the era of generative AI, let's talk about the future of work. According to a recent study by IBM, it says that 40% of workers will reskill in the next 3 years to match up with AI, more like new AI job roles. So, my question is, what is the future of employment? Will jobs be taken away, created, or do we see enhanced productivity? Sachi Edozie, would you like to take that?
All right, Ju. Um, Let me find a way to articulate this question very well. Right. So I have a background in automation, and for years, what we have heard across a number of people is that automation will take away our jobs. But let's just paint a scenario. Let's just paint a scenario. So now, automation does not take jobs. Instead, it creates more jobs. I'll put a context to it. Now, um, look at it this way: if you look back for a one man who is creating a kind of board, right, a board that need to stand. Now that man has he need to bore a hole, he need to shape a stick to be able to get that board to stand, right? Now, in boring a hole, I mean, he's using primitive instruments. He's gonna use a stone, trying to sharp, trying to make some impression in a board so that the stick will fit into that board. Now, the best he can do, maybe in an hour or 2 hours, or maybe in a whole day, he'll just produce one board. Now, step it up a little bit. Now, if you provide him equipment, maybe instead of using stones now, he begin to use nails to fasten the boards together. Instead of using stones, he now begin to use hammer, right? You see that his productivity will now move from generating let's say 10 balls in a day, it can be generating 10 balls in an hour. Reason because you have equipped that man with some level of automation, but still primitive. Now, if you now move a step further and replace stone and replace nails with screws, right? Replace hammer with super electric equipment. You see that that man will be generating not less than maybe like 100 volts before the end of the day. So what have you done? Productivity has increased. Now, what happens is, if you look at it very well, that this same man that has you have equipped now with a new measure of devices. Those measure of devices, for example, will require manufacturers, isn't it? It will require a power electricity to be able to manage the super machine. It will require a whole lot of things, and these are new skills, new jobs that have been created. So what happens in artificial intelligence, just like automation also, is that some old skills, right? Some old skills will be deprecated. So the people in that skills need to relearn new skills so that they'll be able to take advantage of the new technology that is available. Invariably, if you look at it very well, you have created more jobs. Coming to the era of the AI, right? So it will not remove job from you, but yes, there are some jobs that will become obsolete. There are some human intensive jobs that will become obsolete, that will be replaced by the AI. But the AI will create so much jobs. People need to build out these models. So many industries have run over the years, doing things the way they're doing it. Somebody need to come and integrate these ChatGPT models, generative AI models, into this system to fetch more data, to fetch more knowledge, fetch more insight, which indirectly will increase productivity. Now, if you look at the jobs that were created and the skills that were replaced, I won't use the word job that were replaced, I will use the word skills that were replaced, because skills will be replaced, but more jobs will be created. And so it becomes important that the right thing to do is to how to upskill and take advantage of the newest technology rather than hiding under the shade and said that AI will take away your job. It's not going to take away the job. It will render that skill obsolete. Indirectly, your job will be affected. But the right positive motion or positive energy is that you will step up immediately and see the kind of things you can do. Now, looking at our industry, the era of AI, how it's going to affect the future of work across every industry, from banking to finance to insurance to telco to creative designs. Every part of the industry is going to be affected because every part of the industry will have one measure of a significant empowerment that the generative AI is going to deliver in the industry. So it will increase, it will spike up productivity across the ecosystem of what we do as a job, and it will provide more value to organizations that will embrace the use of these large language models that is existing. So I will stop here just to make sure that I didn't deviate from your question very much. Would you please can you confirm that to me?
100%. I mean,
Right.
you
Thank you
said a
so
whole, you really, really said a whole lot here. There would actually be a follow up question to that, but you spoke about upskilling. I'm still going to ask you a follow up question to that, but let me go over to Benjamin. Speaking of enhancing productivity and optimizing tasks, is there a citable use case of generative AI in industries?
Okay, yes. Thank you for that question. So, if you talk about citable examples, or should I say use cases in the industry today. I mean, we wouldn't be here, or we won't be talking about generative AI if we're not if our eyes was not open to the GPT-3, which is the generative pre-trained transformer. That's the three, the third model, and now you have the four. So you also have that E of open AI. These are like use cases of generative AI where that E is able to generate images for you from textual descriptions. Like you're able to describe what kind of images you want, and then using the DALI model, it generates that image for you. And then you also have, like I said, the GPT-3 model that's able to generate, human-like text. So now you have conversational AIs or conversational bots that are able to interact with you normally. Now, look, a trip down memory lane. So I remember as an AI enthusiast, I remember working on a particular project, just like Lara the NG, which is like an AI model in Lagos that is able to help commuters move around Lagos. So I remember working on a particular model like that, similar for Ilorin, which is the capital of Kwara State in Nigeria. Yeah, and then it was quite difficult for me to work on that particular work on that particular project because of how it was. The initial approach was to use intents and entities, where you have to iterate all these intent and entities to suit whatever it is that a particular user would want to talk about. For instance, how would somebody say good morning? How would somebody say good morning? How would somebody say good afternoon? So, but with the aspect of this generative AI now, we now have amazing, even out of context requests that this generative AI is able to answer. And then if you come in house now with Signal Alliance Technology Holding, that's Signal Alliance Consulting, which is an arm of the parent company, we have projects now that we're working on, and the project that we already worked on. For instance, if you look at the human resource industry, we have solutions around that is able to assist the human resource manager, or let me say the HR unit, with policies. For instance, now you're able to let me just say build your data around you. You're able to build a model around your organizational data. So employees now are able to, interact with that particular system and fully understand how the organization operates. Not just that alone, they also know about the policies that govern that particular organization. Now, you have so many use cases that we have. You can talk about the customer experience agent also too, that is able to, assist the banks, that's the BFSIs, also with some operations. Now, it's this all these use cases in a nutshell. They enhance, customer experience. That's if you talk about the customer experience virtual agent that I made mention of, it enhances customer experience. If you talk, come down to the employee and organizational level, it also enhances employee experience with that. So as an employee of a particular company, you have access to, large amount of data that you probably would have, be tired of when you're having to go through the a PDF to know, okay, what the policy is saying, particularly about a particular organization. But now you can easily, with this use case that I made mention of now, make queries and then get your response. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, very interesting. Indeed, generative AI is not just a buzzword, it cuts across industries. Yeah, so Mr. Chedoze, you spoke about upskilling. I know you lead a team of engineers. As a leader, how would you prepare and support an organization and a team in adopting and utilizing generative AI tools effectively?
All right. So there may not be one direct approach to it, right? But just like in the time past, we have engaged in digital transformation. The same way, again, organizations had to take a journey to AI transformation, artificial intelligence transformation. So one of the basics, how will it start? First of all, you have, let me say, a first team within an organization. These are the team of the engineers, right? um, these, because you need to know what you have, you need to know what resources that is available to you. What are the, do an inventory of the skills internally, in case you want to build internally, to find out what skills that you have. Now, peradventure, you don't have skills, AI skills as within your portfolio of engineers who can start this enablement. Then, of course, you need to find a way to start that journey of getting them upskilled. That's number one. But then engineers, they are not the custodian or the domains, the experts of processes. Processes, automation is useless without processes. So processes had to be existing first before you can put a layer of automation on top of it for it to give you value. So the next team, which I call team two, would be a team of domain experts within an industry, who are the people that will identify use cases that will bring value to your organization. Select across within organization to find out who are these people, what level of knowledge do they have. So they may sit in as a kind of R&D for your organization and be able to come across, bring about value areas where AI can bring value to them. Because for you to embark on AI implementation, you need to find out what value you are looking for. You need to find out what area you want to impact with an AI implementation. So if you have this first team, which are the developers, and have the team of the experts, the domain, the custodians of the information processes within an organization, who understands challenges, bottlenecks that the organization are facing, and begin to see how to improve on those processes. So once they narrow down the areas that AI will bring about value to the organization, of course, that will be passed down to the team of developers who will now begin to transform those things into value systems for the organization. Yeah, there will be a third leg that had to do with the change management, because once a new thing is coming up, you need to find a way to take it through a change management to be able to deliver the right value within the context of an organization. Now, again, let's have a scenario organization don't have, they don't have developers, they don't get involved into some of the things. One of the things they would do again is to leverage on partners who, delivering these things are the experts, is what they do, right? So they can bring in partners that can come in and look at existing systems that they have, The good thing is that the GPT, ChatGPT, Open AIs are there. So these are the ones that can integrate this into an existing system that you have already and begin to churn out values and insight out of those systems and the data that you already have within your ecosystem. Again, you can also start up a very fresh project from ground up, right? Which will be purely AI enabled. Um, there are a lot of cognitive services that Microsoft has given out there within the system that can be able to begin to do these translations, whether it is translating audios or into text, first of all, before you can work with it, as the case of contact center. Now, Benjamin mentioned few things around the use cases. If you take that case of contact center as an example, you know that majorly contact centers receive audios, receive, yeah, audios. So first of all, you have to go through the process of getting this data, which is in audio content type, transform it into a text. From transforming into a text, then you can mine into that data a lot of insight you can provide that will give you your customer preferences, what issues that customers are having. Give you an insight on how you can position your business based on the insights of the responses you are getting from your customers. So these are some ways that organization can start small to take journey into AI transformation. Either you have a team you're working inside, or you want to leverage on partners who already are exposed to delivering of these services and begin to see how these values, one after the other, will bring about business impact in your organization. That would be my response to that, Uju. Thank you.
Hmm. This is very insightful, I really must say. Of course, you've highlighted some bottlenecks and how we can actually deal with it. So, before I continue, I would like to ask if anyone in the audience has any question. You can raise your hand so that I'll be sure you all have been listening in. Does anyone have any question? I can see Shegun on the call. I can see Olubenga on the call. I can see Serge on the call. Joshua Idris. Does anyone have any question? All right. So, in the absence of no question for now, Benjamin, I'll be coming over to you. Okay, so I said according to a Gartner report, generative AI democratizes the whole aspect of knowledge and information. Do we in the future envisage a monopoly of information if generative AI services becomes paid for? Do you think it's going to be paid for service, or will this still be open AI free to use for everyone? Do you envisage a monopoly of information?
Okay, thank you for that. So to answer your question, um, I think it's still going to be free to everyone because now we have instances where, like like our organization, for example, now we're building models, we're building use cases around this particular models. So I think over time you would have instances where companies would, should I say, build use cases also around this model. So yes, I don't think it's going to be a monopoly of information because now you're able to build solutions around an organization data using any of the models. But then yes, there's still the aspect of token because even if you say it's free right now, right? When you're building, okay, let me say for the building aspect of things, it's actually not free. Maybe for the end user, it's free because the open source aspect of it. But for the developer aspect, when you start building, you have things around tokens, and then you have things around intent and the likes, and then you realize that okay, there are some things that are actually paid for. But for the to answer your question, monopolization of data, yes, it's still going to remain free for the end users.
Okay, so if this is still going to remain free, let us delve into the ethics of using generative AI. What do you have to say as regards the ethics around generative AI? Since it's open source.
So concerning ethics of generative AI, I think it just comes down to how we use this generative AI. So you would have instances of ethic considerations, including we talk about addressing biases in training data and then outputs. Okay, so if you have, I think many of us here have made use of ChatGPT at one point in time or the other, and then you would see that when you're making use of that particular solution, which is the ChatGPT, you are actually not able to use some words. So we call it content filtering, right? So considering ethics around generative AI, we just need to ensure quality and reliability. And then, for instance, now we have so many standard practices that emphasizes transparency, fairness, and accountability. So when we are using the generative AI, it just comes down to how number one, for instance, I as a developer, I need to address the aspect of biases in training data and output, so that I'm able to prevent malicious use of that particular model. So as an end user, also too, you also need to adhere to rules. We have guidelines that talks about how you're able to use even the ChatGPT as an instance that I made mention of. So you have guidelines that covers how to use that particular model and how you're not able to, even if you make that intent, even if you try to um, do something malicious with it, the model has been built to, just filter out those content and then stop you from going further with it.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Dozier, still on ethics. In your opinion, what ethical considerations should businesses take into account when implementing generative AI in the workplace?
All right, Uju. So I love what the AI world is doing, right? Trying to bring about ethics within these developments. Because the truth of the matter is, you can use it for evil, you can use it for good, right? But then, if I take the case of Microsoft, which they call it responsible AI principles, not just only the generative AI. So, at the back of any organization or researcher or developer who's building an AI system, you need to factor in some of these things we call responsible AI principles. Now, in the context of Microsoft words, they have given us one that it must be there must be fairness. So AI system must be developed to treat all people fairly. Benjamin mentioned few things around that. There's no bullying with it. There's no using of wrong words with it. So it's meant to enhance. It's meant to increase value and productivity, not something that will be used against people. So there must be this fairness. Also, there is reliability and safety. I mean, we have seen cars today that are self-driving in mode. The question is, will you fly an airplane that is driven by AI? There's no pilot in it. Will you take that chance and go into it? So once our world matures in how we use these, I'm sure one day we'll get into these things. If we can get into the cars, we can also get into airplanes that will fly us without a pilot sitting in it, just the AI directing all the whole thing. So the reliability and the safety of the system must be put into place at the point of design, right? We also have the privacy and the security. If you take the banking sector, for example, there are a lot of private data that sit with the bank. So for any AI implementation you want to do in any area, whether it is fraud detection or any other use case you want to take up, you need to find out data that need to be de-identified, data that is open to people. I mean, private data for people. These are things you don't just showcase there when you are building an AI system. You need to find a way to put it there. It's part of the principles you need to adhere to. Now, inclusiveness is also one of them. So AI system must be designed to address a broad range of human needs and experiences. So it's important. Transparency, AI system behavior and functions components should be understood so that people can identify potential issues and unintended outcomes. Accountability is there. So these are ethicals that need to be in the fabric of any researcher, any organization, or developers that will be working with AI system, because you'll be dealing with data. Those data speaks. Those data have privacy with them. A lot of things that goes with it. So, but once you are equipped with this knowledge, then you are out to do a positive impact into our generation. You are out to build something that increases, not something that decreases the human aspect of the society. So that would be my response around the ethical principles that need to be adhered when you are implementing AI system within any context you can call it.
So, as a follow up question, who enforces these ethics, Mr. Dozier? Who enforces these ethics? Because it's not just enough to say we have policies in place, but are there bodies, are there people who would enforce all of these ethics and policies?
Yeah, already. So there are bodies, there are standards already that had to be adhered, and what it means is that if you just like you have security standards across the world, right? You have the GDP models, you have a whole lot of things that you can adhere to. Once you go against any of these things, you can be sued, and once you are sued with it, you know what the outcome is. So of course, you know that at the point of building, these are things you need to take into consideration. If you release a data that does not go through a process of approval, a process that is covered by this ethics, there is after effect of it, and the government will come after it. So we have a world standard already developed for this, and again, those that build should build according to those standards.
Okay, great. So, in one of your responses, you asked if anyone will fly an aircraft powered by AI. So, I'm throwing that question back to our audience, our listeners. Farouk, will you fly an aircraft powered by AI? Someone should just unmute their mic and say something. Would like to feel your pulse and also hear your voice and ensure that you are enjoying this session. But if you don't want to say anything, give us a thumbs up or a round of applause so that we know that you're here with us. Thank you. Okay, so Benjamin, still back to use cases. How do you think industries, especially the BFSIs, this is the financial industry, how do you think they can apply generative AI?
Okay, thank you for that. So, in the BFSIs, I think generative AI can be applied in various ways. For instance, there's the aspect of risk assessment, right? So, I think generative AI can assist in risk assessment. Now, how exactly is it going to assist now? Now, it can assist by generating synthetic financial data. I mean, you have to, of course, have how the BFSI works. You have to have a comprehensive risk model. So now this generative AI is able to help you generate synthetic financial data to create more of these comprehensive risk models. And now you're able to use this now to, um, have more accurate predictions. So additionally, it can also, should I say, automate the generation of natural language reports for financial analysis. I mean, that is why it's the BFSI, right? So we have so many instances of financial reports and all. So with this generative AI now, you can even automate the process where you can actually generate your financial analysis reports. And then there's also, like I made mention of earlier, on the aspect of customer service enhancements, where you have customer experienced virtual agents that can reply customers in real time, solve, you have the aspect of issue resolution, and then all this all put together is just only, should I say, enhancing productivity for not just the BFSIs, but also for the end users, which is in this case their customers.
Okay, great. Mr. Dozier, do you have any addition to that?
I mean, Benjamin has done justice to it, right, Oju? But there are a whole lot use cases that can come out. Have you considered customer insight and marketing? Things that has to be with insight about behavior and preferences. These are things that you can't take for granted within the industry. It doesn't take much for a customer to walk away from your industry and go into a competitor. It can be that he's finding it difficult to get information, right? It might be that he comes in, walk into your customer service, and it was difficult even to get attention because of the crowd that fill up there. But what if the that person can have access to a virtual assistant that instead of going to the bank, you can quickly engage a virtual assistant and get virtually every information, even beyond what the customer service personnel would have given you. So that is value. I mean, you can't underestimate that at all. Now, if you look at the case of fraud detection, also, so with generative AI, you have models that can look at the transaction behavior and be able to detect anomalies, right? Most banks before now have built. In fact, I was having a discussion with a friend yesterday, and he was telling me he built credit score model for about three banks which he mentioned. And I asked him a question: when did you build this? And this was built sometimes in the time past, maybe like 3 more years ago. I said, okay, now that we are in the era of AI, you have access to ChatGPT APIs. What difference would it do if I'm asked you to rebuild the same credit score? Do you think you make difference? You say, wow, you're going to make a lot of difference because you have a powered engine sitting on a large language model that will be able to give you far more insight than what we have been doing before. So these are areas again that can come in. And later on, I speak things around the contact center. Somehow you find a way to. Most of the banking sectors have one form of contact center or another, right? In which they used to receive voice information from the customers. Now you have those voice stored up in the data in your database. A lot of them are sitting there. I mean, you won't go in and begin to look at those audios and begin to listen to them and know what happens in those audios. But if you can plug that into a large language model APIs, you can see that you can transform those audios, first of all, into text and mine into that data. And you can provide a lot of information and insight that your customers are asking you about. A whole lot around that. If you take the things around financial advisor also, the generative AI can analyze a customer's financial history, goals, risks, and tolerance to be able to give you some personalized investment. So I want to do an investment into a bank. If I take a typical bank, many of the time they roll out some promotional adverts, right? In fact, if you ask me now, what are those forms that feed on the customer tables? Many of them has different formats. You invest 1 naira here, you get 2 naira here. You invest how many? Those kind of things. But how many of us can understand those things? How many of us can even explain those things the way it works? But if you have an AI system, you can engage an AI system. It will walk you through your financial history. It will walk you through goals. It will ask you what do you want to achieve. No, these are cases you can lay out immediately and be able to get insight. So by sitting down with a virtual assistant, you already have enough of information that you can deal with. If you take the case of manufacturing, the same thing. You can sit with a virtual assistant and get an advice on how you want to go in with what you have, because it has the record, it has the histories. Just getting to know how to give it the right prompt will take you to a world you may not even be on. Believe. So there are several use cases that you can employ. In fact, of recent now, my team is working on a visitors management system. Of course, we know that we can easily go in and interact with a bot and do some other things. But you're looking at a bot that can take your speech now, right? Being able to take your speech, translate your speech into text, and go in and search the calendar of any person you want to book an appointment with, and come back to you with a lot of options, availability calendar options, and you make your choice, and you run back again to the person, hit him and alert, let him know that so some person want to make book an appointment with him. These are possibilities that you can engage. All of them are embedded with an AI systems. It can be a speech to text. It can be a data recognition, being able to scrape amount of data and be able to fill up systems on behalf of you. I mean, these are things that are possibilities within any sector, especially the banking sector, that will take advantage around some of these things. So I think that's addition I want to add to what Benjamin has mentioned. Again, if you look at when you mention BFSI, so you have the banking, you have the financial services, you also have insurance. How about insurance? In the insurance sector, generative AI can automate the processing of documents such as claims. I mean, if you go to that's what insurance industry does, is claims, policies, contracts, right? Have you been to any insurance company and see how long it takes to dig out information about their customer when a case of claims occurs? Because they had to compare data, they had to compare information before they even agree that yes, these are something you can claim for. But once you have an AI system that can manage those document processes, it will bring out both the claims, the policies, the contract, everything that is being stipulated about that claim, and it makes so much life easy. So there are a whole lot that can be gotten out of what generative AI will do for us. I think that's my submission in addition to what Benjamin has mentioned.
Interesting. If I were a CIO, I will be reaching out to you now, Mr. Dozier. Okay, so anyhow, Nnamdi Mba Igbo raised his hands and I think he has a question. Nnamdi, you
All
can
right.
unmute yourself. You have the floor. Hello, Nnamdi. Are you still on the call? You can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Question. Okay.
Good
Thank you.
afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Obianuju, Chidoze, and Benjamin. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Um, the discussion is quite interesting, and the knowledge at which you people show in the discussion is also quite very deep. I must really appreciate Signal Alliance for this wonderful call this afternoon.
Thank you so much,
Yes, so
sir.
my question um, is actually, how do AI and generative AI support non-for-profit? Because that is one of the areas we are quite very much interested in. Um, I'm the founder of Tropical Gate Foundation for Sustainable Development, and we are particularly about the SGD initiatives, 1, 3, and 5. So, how do we use this wonderful solution to also accelerate what we do in a non-for-profit? Again, second question is um, about data protection and how, if Obenuju, when he was making her introduction, she said something around patent and data protection. So how do we get the assurance that getting involved to this thing, that our data are protected? And thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
sir.
much, Namdi, for your contribution. Mr. Dozier, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can give that a very good try. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate the question that you asked. So, from what I know about the non-profit organization, right? Um, Basically, most of their engagements start from research aspect of things, right? Now, if you don't have a good data, it becomes difficult for you even to, first of all, do a research on a project you want to undertake. It becomes difficult for you to even get the right stakeholders who will listen to this project you want to undertake. Most times, again, it becomes very difficult for you to put down together the justification why this project should be invested in. These are much I know about nonprofit organizations. Now, with the impact of AI, if you take things around fundraising and donor engagement, now AI can give you a predictive analytics that can help to identify the potential donors and personalize fundraising campaigns, right? You will not need to struggle around your marketing activities. The generative AI can give you a lot of insight based on the project you want to undertake. It will give you a lot of insight on how you can go about driving that idea, giving you the right stakeholders to discuss with, giving you the right data you can plug in so that justification becomes as easy as possible for you to speak about that project before the stakeholders. Now, if you engage things around the chatbot and virtual assistant, you can see that they can provide real-time responses to donor inquiries. Now, what if you want to have a project and you have identified your donors, you have identified stakeholders, but again, they want to have more information. They want to reach out to you. You will not be there 24/7 because you are a human. There are so many questions. If I want to put my money into a non-profit organization, because of the environment where we find ourselves, some might be skeptical if this project will actually translate to the people that finally is meant for. So they want to make inquiries. If you have a chatbot or if you have a virtual assistant that is real time 247, your donors can engage them on a great information. Make every inquiries they need to make, every report, every support they will ask, that can be gotten from it. How about data analysis and insight again? So you can have your AI analyze a large data set to extract insight about the donor behaviors. So you have these donors that you always call each time. Maybe when you do campaign, how many of them respond to it? You have invited someone for a long time. There's no history of what this person has been partnering with your organization, right? Now, with your AI, you can run a lot of predictive analysis around it. can plug into your data and see what has been existing since that organization was formed and what informations you might be required. Now, it will help you to be efficient, to target the right stakeholders, target the right audience, and of course, being able to deliver productivity with a shortest possible time. I know what it takes to write a justification letter. You have generate a content within a short of a seconds that will give you the right content with the right prompting that will help you to fly in those areas. If you look at volunteer matching and the management, sometimes the non-profit do things around the volunteer services. You need to reach out to people that will be part of this project. How do you get them? How do you reach out to them? How do you know the behavior of these people? How do you know their histories? If there are other non-profit organizations which they have sponsored before or which they have been part of before, these are informations that, humanly speaking, it will be difficult. It will take more time for you to gather these. But with the help of generative AI, you can gain speed, quick to insight, and be able to respond as quick as possible. Let me stop here and see if I was able to speak to some of the things that you're expecting to hear. But I think this is what I can see from my face at the moment around these informations.
Okay. Namdi, did he speak to your concerns?
Maybe can I hear Benjamin's view on all this?
Okay.
So Chidozie has done quite a lot, has given quite a lot of insight to your question. But to add to this, I would say, remember we said generative AI deals with content generation, right? So, I mean, of course, as a non-profit organization, just like you made mention of, you want to, create awareness. You want to be able to make campaigns and all that. So this is what generative AI can actually assist you with, where it can actually you are able to create content that are targeted towards your particular set of audience, and then you're even able to make personalized campaigns that everything centered around creating awareness, and then talk about the aspect of data patterns, just like you made mention of. You're able to measure the impacts that your organization itself has towards people. So it's not just about the fact that okay, you're able to identify your donors and all that, but you also want to know that okay, what exactly is the impact of your organization towards the people that you're trying to reach out to. So you're able to do all this with generative AI. I hope that answered your question, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let,
Thank you, Bodo.
let me have an
Thank you, Bodo.
addition. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
I know you mentioned things around security of your data, isn't it?
exactly.
Now, if you
Exactly.
if you look at very well, you notice that Microsoft has done a lot of investments with the Open AI company, and as such, because of that partnership, they have access to almost all their APIs within their cloud platform. Now, if you come to Azure, there is what we call Azure Open AI, right? Now, what it means is it is Open AI for the enterprise. It gives you the ability to connect Azure into your organization data. Now, everything you are doing within that system is not out there. It's not used to train the next model that's going to come in. Everything sits in a private information. I mean, you have already maybe probably using some Microsoft solutions in one way or another. The same level of SNA, the same level of privacy, the same level of data protection you have with them, the same foundation of data protection and security you have with Microsoft is what you have when you engage using Azure OpenAI. In case you want to go that big private, right? You want to make sure that your data, your mining is your data, and the information that was being gotten is also your information. If you can trust Microsoft with having your data center on Azure, or having your VM on Azure, or having your Office 365, or having any product that they have, the same platform also holds Azure OpenAI, and it promises the same security that underlines what you already have and be using with them. So these are one of the advantages or security hard checks that you can trust when you are dealing with things around this. So with security, you have no problem, especially when you are using Azure OpenAI.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dozier. Our time has actually been far spent, and I don't know if anyone on the call has any question. Do you have any question for us? All right. In the absence of no question, this will be like an icebreaker. Chair Dozier and Benjamin, fastest finger, test your knowledge. What is the GPT in Chat GPT? What does the GPT in Chat GPT stand for?
So it stands for the Generative Pre-trained Transformer.
Hey, let's give him a round of applause, a virtual round of applause, please. Okay, which of these platforms hit 1
That is
million
Benjamin
users?
for you. That's the GPT generation.
Okay, so which of these platforms hit 1 million users in less than a week? The chat generative pretrained transformer, Netflix, or Thread?
So that is the ChatGPT.
Okay, great. So we've come to the end of this session, and I'd like to say a very big thank you to each and every one of you for joining this session. Do have an amazing time. Until next week, see you again.